In many of the most heavily investigated crimes, police don't have to hunt down the killer to get a confession. The perpetrators pick up the phone and dial 911 themselves. These recordings act as audio footprints in the dark. They freeze the exact moment a normal Tuesday turns into a nightmare, captured entirely through sound. And when that call connects, the dispatcher on the other end is stepping into a void. They have zero visual context and absolutely no idea who they are speaking to. They might be listening to a terrified victim begging for rescue. Or they might be talking to a murderer who is actively putting on a deceptive mask. Because of that tension, these recordings reveal things that interviews and scene reconstructions often miss. Long before detectives arrive or DNA is tested, the voices on these tapes provide the raw data that defines the trajectory of an entire investigation. Let's look at the first type of caller, the liar. Often, the most deeply disturbing audio logs sit in police evidence rooms simply because the killer weighed the call. Take Chris Watts in Colorado. He initiated a call to the police, playing the role of a desperate husband reporting his pregnant wife and 2 daughters missing. Investigators use acoustic analysis to look past words. This audio waveform maps vocal pitch over time. Notice how it remains entirely flat. Normally, high-stress spikes appear when someone's family vanishes. In Watts's case, those spikes are absent. He was entirely calm. We see this same pattern in the 2012 Faith Hedgepeth case. When her roommate found her murdered, the 911 call immediately raised red flags for investigators. The roommate repeatedly described a horrific, bloody scene to the dispatcher, yet her vocal delivery lacked the expected panic, maintaining a strange, steady composure throughout the recording. Deception requires heavy cognitive load, and humans struggle to artificially manufacture panic while lying. A carefully constructed narrative inevitably breaks down against the microscopic, uncontrollable truths hiding in vocal tone. The second caller is the survivor. In these instances, victims manage to dial out while an attack is actively unfolding. In 2020, an Ohio teenager called emergency services while her mother's boyfriend was assaulting her family. She had locked herself inside a bedroom closet. The physical reality of her situation dictated the audio. She had to communicate the attacker's location to the operator, using only the faintest whisper to avoid drawing attention to her hiding spot. Her bravery under extreme constraint meant police arrived in time to save her and her mother. In these fleeting, chaotic windows, an unscripted whisper acts as the absolute only lifeline separating a rescue from a tragedy. The third essential voice on these tapes is the listener. Behind the scenes in busy dispatch centers, operators manage impossible pressure on the other end of the line. Their objective is highly complex. They have to simultaneously analyze the caller's panic, coach them through survival tactics, and filter out ambient chaos to extract actionable facts. When 13-year-old Jamie Kloss was abducted after her parents were murdered, the 911 call didn't even come from her. A neighbor called in. They lacked any concrete details and only knew that something felt deeply wrong. The dispatcher prioritized the neighbor's gut instinct, correlating the vague descriptions with recent missing persons reports to justify a rapid, massive police response. By acting quickly on vague information, that dispatcher preserved the vital early evidence that eventually led to Jamie's rescue 88 days later. In the Kloss case, it wasn't a physical lead that started the clock. It was a dispatcher making sense of a confusing phone call. They act as the first point of contact, where raw panic is converted into actionable data. Sometimes the audio logs don't solve the mystery. They become an unsolved echo, recordings that leave us with permanent questions. Consider the Tina Watson case. Her husband dialed in from a scuba diving trip to report that she had drowned. His voice lacked any sense of urgency. Furthermore, his calm description of the drowning directly contradicted the accounts provided by other divers who witnessed the event. He was convicted in Australia, but later freed in the US, leaving the recording highly debated. It forces you to wonder, how exactly would your own voice react if you were thrust into the ultimate pressure of a nightmare scenario? 911 calls capture the raw truth of a crisis in real time. While many provide a resolution, others leave us with the permanent, haunting silence of what the caller refused to say.